Welcome everyone to another little video on the website of Ye Olde Parish Church of Loughborough. I'm here today to do a little bit of a conversation with a member of our congregation. So throughout the month of June, we are keeping Pride Month, and I thought it would be really good just to have some conversations with different folks who come to All Saints, and perhaps some people from a little bit further afield. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks, but to explore the theme of pride. Think a bit about why do we bother with pride? Why do we fly that flag outside our church and all that kind of stuff? So I hope you're going to stay tuned and listen to this conversation, and hopefully, engage in the conversation and share your views and kind of, go forwards with this idea that we're kind of thinking about today. So my guest today will be a fairly familiar face to you if you've been worshipping with us regularly at All Saints. If you watch from home on the live stream, you may even have seen him on the camera. There's a couple of different roles at All Saints. So by the magic of Zoom, these are my very high-tech videos. I'm going to reveal him to you by the means of the gallery. So da-da! I'd like to introduce to you Graeme. I feel I should have a fanfare there or something.
I'd like a fanfare.
I'm sure you would. Well, listen, in the absence of a fanfare, would you introduce yourself to folks at home? Who are you? What does life look like? And what do you do at All Saints?
Well, my name's Graeme Smith. I'm been a member of All Saints for, I think, getting on for 6 years now. I'm very, very happy to be a part of the All Saints community. Away from church for work, I work in education as an executive principal for an academy trust, and at All Saints, I'm involved in the kind of the boring stuff like finance and HR and things like that. But also I get to take part in playing the piano sometimes for some of the services and as part of the worship, which I really enjoy as well.
It's never boring, finance and HR.
As you know, I quite like it. I was just if we go to a spreadsheet, it makes me happy.
I was going to say, Graeme's a spreadsheet man. I'm not a spreadsheet person. And in fact, one of the roles that Graeme has recently taken on, he is our giving champion. But we're not going to talk about that today. Although, we could. So if you're excited by what you hear, you might want to talk about Graeme, about how you support the life of the church and how you're able to donate to the ministry of All Saints. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. I am aware that as we are recording this, it is a rather somber week in the life of a Leicester City football fan's life. And you omitted to say, Graeme, that football is your other passion. And as people will know, I don't know anything about football. I mean, I know, pitch, ball, goals, things. But I also know that it was a bit of a bad weekend. I mean, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I did ask you, as you remember, to pray for Leicester City on Sunday. You didn't, so I'm going to put their relegation at your door. But like I did say to someone in the ground, and when I mentioned it, that I don't really think God was that bothered about whether or not teams get relegated or promoted. So I was probably being a little bit cynical and a little bit silly. But yeah, no. So Leicester have been relegated, and that's made me very sad. Because, as you know, I do quite a lot of work with Leicester City as well as with All Saints, and as well as at work itself.
So, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, because I know you're a season ticket holder, aren't you, at Leicester, along with one of our church wardens. So you're not on your own as being a very miserable fox.
Yeah, we sit 3 seats apart from each other.
How wonderful. So, but you're involved with Fox's Pride. So just tell us a little about that. What is it? What do you do? Why does it matter?
Yeah, so Fox's Pride is the fan group for fans of Leicester City who are LGBTQ+ and their friends and allies. So we kind of had our first meeting, got set up about 7-8 years ago. I was one of the co-founders, and I've been the chair since we were founded. I don't think I've got long left doing that, maybe another year or so, but that's been really, really good. So Fox's Pride exists to make sure that football, and specifically the King Power Stadium and Leicester City, is a place where the LGBTQ community can feel welcomed and feel part of sport. People will be aware that there's been lots of surveys and lots of information done that kind of shows that LGBTQ people, particularly in the men's game, I have to say, don't feel welcome. There can be lots of abuse flying around and things like that. So we work with the club to make sure that there's opportunities for LGBTQ fans to gather together. We work with other organisations to kind of spread the word as well. So yeah, we've had some really great opportunities. We've met the players, and we've met the management team, we've worked with all sorts of people at the club and just keep trying to make sure the club does what it can do, and that we can do what we can do in terms of educating and supporting fans and making that safe space.
Thank you. I'm really interested when you say that, because you talk about people not always feeling welcome, sometimes getting abuse, not knowing that they have a safe space in the world of football, and I'm aware that at the minute, sort of in the certain sections of the press and say on social media, you get a kind of narrative that's like, oh, for goodness sake, these LGBT people, going on about it all the time. Can we not just sort of move on, really? We're living in the 21st century. No one really minds. So, why do you have to go on about it all the time? And that kind of thing. But clearly in the world of sport, there's still a need for it. There's no sense that Fox's Pride has done its job now and can move on, is there?
No, we've still got stuff to do, because until such time as people will say that they feel safe and happy to come to football, then there's still things to do. Ultimately, the dream, and I guess hopefully this is as far as your analogy will go, but the dream is that Fox's Pride doesn't need to exist, because after we're about to talk about other safe spaces, and I think they still will need to exist. But I think that's the ultimate aim, really, because we've done our job and we're not needed.
Yeah. Well, let's bring it into the life of the church, because clearly not every church or not every Christian would want to celebrate Pride. We do at All Saints. We like to mark the month. We have previously done it in September because that's when Leicester Pride is. But we thought we'd sort of tap in more to the national sort of push on Pride this year. So you've only been worshipping All Saints a few years, but I know your Christian faith goes back decades, because you're quite old now, really, Graeme, aren't you? To be fair.
Yeah. Catching you up, Wendy.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, so so why does it matter to you to belong to a church that celebrates Pride, or why do we need Pride in the church? Because surely everyone's welcome to come to church. So why do we need to make a big thing about Pride?
I think everyone is welcome to come to church, and I think I don't know a church that wouldn't say that, and I think that's really interesting. But I think why Pride matters, and why inclusion matters, actually, perhaps more than Pride itself, is that church should be a place where people can be themselves. It should be a place where people can be celebrated for who they are, where they can share with their church family in the kind of the rites of passage that happen in life, like your family related things, all those sorts of issues, and there's that bit where it talks about rejoicing with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That really, and actually you can apply that to football, but you can also apply that to your life events and things like that as well. And I think for me, there's something really important about sharing your life events with the church community that you're a part of. And so for me, inclusion is about being able to be your whole self, and not being someone who feels that they can be part of themselves in church, but not their whole self. And so that's one of the reasons why, having had some time away from church, I found myself sneaking in and out the back of All Saints for a few months, and just finding out whether or not it was somewhere I wanted to be part of. And I spoke to you very early on, Wendy, in fact, but I think you remember one of those very early conversations we had was around the times I didn't want to be a church where I had to kind of hide who I was.
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose, and I'm very happy I chose to come and be a part of All Saints, because it means that my life can be shared with the people I love and worship God alongside every Sunday. It means that I've got support during the week should I need it, through being part of church. So that's why I think it matters.
Thank you, and thank you for that really just honest response. And I'm not interested in here really in sort of putting others down. We recognise there's a diversity of views in the church and so on, but I think there's something about knowing why we do what we do. And you mentioned, I love that you drew in that verse from scripture that talks about, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And actually, there's something about being able to be your full self with a church family. I know you've been married to Paul for 4 years now, together a lot longer, I think, but 4 years ago you got married. And you had I was really delighted to be able to invite you to your wedding day, as were other folks from All Saints. It involved they're not like alpacas, I'm just going to say. I mean, really, but I mean, they were lovely, but so were you and Paul. But it was lovely to be able to go along. It was at a beautiful hotel, and you invited me to go as your parish priest and to pray with you, as part of that ceremony, and to offer prayers for you. And I know that as we talked about it, and as I talked with you and Paul, it saddened me that currently in the Church of England, I couldn't have the conversation that I would have with other couples and say, would you like a church wedding? Would you like me to come be with you? But why was it important to you that beyond me getting to come and be a guest and enjoy the nice food, which was lovely, why did it matter that I came and prayed with you in a more formal way?
I think for me, it comes down to that perception that being a Christian isn't something you can separate from parts of your life. And I've had a very, very traditional Anglican upbringing. I remember when I was a kid, Pinchbeck St Mary's had a flower festival based on the 7 sacraments, and I remember helping to design the flower display about the weddings and stuff. But actually, there is something, and as I'm getting older, it pains me to say it, but I think there is something in the sacramental life, and there is something in the, because I always thought I was too cool for that, and there is something there is something in that, and so actually, the whole point of a sacrament is that it's celebrated and shared with your church family. I do believe that love and marriage are gifts from God. I do believe that. I was brought up to kind of believe that. I believe as I'm getting older, I believe the Bible is very clear that love comes from God. It doesn't come from anywhere else. I think that's really, really clear. And so for me, I think if you've got people, whoever they are, in a loving, committed relationship and want to profess that love and share it, if they're part of the Christian, like, and if they're practicing Christians, then I think it would be remiss for God not to be involved somewhere along the line. If you believe love is from God and that marriage is a gift from God, which I do, you can't really have one without the other.
Thank you. It was a lovely day to be part of, I have to say. Really lovely, really lovely.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, good. Okay. I remember, although you rather annoyingly scheduled it for Easter weekend, which was particularly bad planning, so I couldn't stay late into the partying because some of us had to get up early for a dawn service.
You could have had the vigil. You could have had the vigil in Kilworth. That'd be nice.
I could have at your wedding reception. Well, yeah. I mean, there's some future plans. If anyone's planning a wedding for next year, can you please? You want me involved? Please do not book it over Holy Week and Easter Vigil weekend. I wonder what might be your message to those of us who are part of All Saints or part of the wider Church of England, around what you feel is important for us to think about. Because again, I do come back to this idea that some people might wonder why do we fly a rainbow flag outside our church? Why do we need to again have the equivalent of a pride movement within the church? There have been some steps forward over the years, and some of you will know if you're watching this and you follow General Synod stuff, there's been some steps forward, but we're not quite there yet. But what do you need the wider part of our church family to know, Graeme? I suppose I'm drawn back to your statement about Fox's pride. What do you need so that you are welcome and fully welcome in church? What do we need to know?
I mean, I'm talking generally because I am welcome. So yeah, I was sorry. I'm fiddling with something that's making a noise. So I think that what people need from the church is to know they feel welcome. And actually, it's not just enough to put a banner on the side. It's not just enough to fly a flag. Actually, it's not just enough to have the inclusive church statement on your website, because that's not what being welcome is. Being welcome in a church is being made to be a part of the community, being made to feel a part of the community. People may think that because we fly a flag and because we've got the statement, that's it, we've done our job, but we haven't. What really matters is that those people who aren't LGBTQ, and those people who perhaps don't experience the same sorts of prejudice and statements and read the same things about themselves that you might read online from some Christian commentators and things like that. They need to, I think, understanding the role that they have in making the church a welcoming place. That means standing up for the LGBTQ plus Christian brother and sister. It means saying that they're not going to tolerate it and being a part of an inclusive church for me means that you're bold in pronouncing it, you're bold in sharing it. One of my favourite things at All Saints is the Lord's Prayer, and that is such an unashamed kind of statement of inclusivity. The way that people are encouraged to use their own language every week, it absolutely gets me, because it's obvious, and I love the fact that even people who are praying it in English are all praying it at different times in their own pace. And it just, for me, sums up what that means. It's overt. So what we do need is for people at their own pace to be able to turn and say, yeah, I am going to stand with my LGBTQ sibling because it matters, and because I'm part of a church in which it matters. And if that means I'm going to get some stick from people, it doesn't matter. If that means people are going to be a bit mean to me, that's okay, because the LGBTQ Christian has experienced a lot worse over the years, and churches need to be standing up and saying that it's not all right. And equally, in a very balanced way, I get that there are churches that's not the case, and it saddens me, but I'm sort of okay with that. But it does mean that the churches that say they are welcome really have to do a very good job.
Yeah. Thank you, Graeme. I think you put that so well, and I really appreciate your time today. I hope for those of you who are watching at home, I hope this is helpful. It may be things that you just know anyway, and perhaps you just got to know Graeme a little bit better there. So please do commiserate with him and Gwyn about Leicester over the coming months, because we want to stand with our brothers and sisters. But if you'd like to know more about this, if you think, oh, Wendy, I think this is a good thing, but I don't really know what the Bible says, please look out for, I'm going to do some posts about some particular books that are really helpful to read, that talk about why we can give a real biblical inclusive welcome to all people, and so on. So really happy to follow that up with different people. But also you might want to look out for, Graeme just spoke to us really well just there about how we stand alongside our LGBTQ plus siblings, and we will be supporting St Nicholas Church in Leicester, being present at Leicester Pride in September. So there'll be more information about that to come, but that again is an important part of standing alongside. And if you come to that, you will get to see Graeme with Leicester Foxes Pride. I would imagine Graeme will be there, and certainly the Foxes Pride stand will be there. So huge thanks to you, Graeme, for joining me this afternoon. And please look out for the next video as we have these little conversations about pride, about inclusion, and about